Well, good Saturday morning to you. It's great to be back. I've been gone for a couple of weeks, but I'm back today, and welcome to New Thought Talk. I am the Reverend Steve Walling. I am from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful downtown Madera. And today I've got an interesting show. Well, I hope it's interesting. It's a show that it came to me that I've had various guests on the show, and we've talked to them about their centers, the activities going on, about their path that brought them to New Thought. And I've had people say, you know, Rev Steve, you've never talked about yourself, and you really haven't given much of a plug to the center that you work at. And so today, the show's going to be a little bit more about me and a little bit more about the Spiritual Awareness Center located in Madera, and a lot about New Thought and my journey to New Thought, because that's something that I haven't as of yet shared with you. So as I get started today, one of the first things I want to do is I want to read a couple of things to you, because it kind of sets the stage for what really was the beginning part of my journey into New Thought. And back in 1964, a fellow by the name of Raymond Hollywell, he wrote this. He says, "Millions are affected by unemployment, poverty, and want. Can they help it? Where we have thousands of homes broken on the rocks of matrimony, can such a breach be repaired? Millions complain of sickness and disorder in countless forms. All this gives rise to the belief that we are victims of circumstance over which we have no control." That was written in 1964, but it could have just as easily been written today, couldn't it? But we go back to 1938, and a fellow by the name of Ernest Holmes wrote, "The world has learned all that it should through suffering." The world has learned all it should through suffering. He says, the world is beginning to realize that it has learned all it should through suffering and pain. Surely there can be no intelligence in the universe that wishes man to be sick, suffer pain, be unhappy, and end in oblivion. Surely, if God or universal intelligence is imbued with goodness, then it could not ordain that man should ultimately be other than the perfect expression of life. And he's talking about that which we call God. And you know, God is an understanding that is very personal to each and every one of us. And we come from different backgrounds. We bring to our background our beliefs, or from our backgrounds our beliefs, and our beliefs are formed as we're growing up. You know, if we come out of a traditional Christian background, for example, we have a belief of God as some kind of a being that is a personification of mankind, is an anthropomorphic being. God walks, he sits, he talks. He's got, we jokingly say sometimes he's got a big gold G on his chest and a big white beard, and he sits in a gold throne somewhere. But all humor aside, there are people that carry that belief on some level, and maybe it doesn't manifest consciously in their life day to day, but they relate on a spiritual level to things in their lives from that basic understanding, because that is their belief. And so, as we go along and we grow, I want to read a little something else to you that's more, it's more in touch with where people are at today. There is a quiet revolution taking place throughout the world, which is really a sign of spiritual growth. Many people are breaking away from traditional dogmatic religious beliefs, declaring that it isn't right for me. This has all come about by people who feel that God is more than a judgmental overseer in the sky who sends some people to hell and others to heaven. There must be a higher definition for people other than just being sinners. Within the hearts of these individuals is the conviction that there is a God or supreme power that they wish to embrace every minute of every day instead of fear. These people seek a new definition of God, Christ, and the Holy Spirit. They seek a loving presence rather than one that triggers guilt and duty. They dare to ask questions and challenge traditional values. Fortunately, some have discovered new ways of thinking that expound new thoughts on God, which not only make sense in their minds, but also in their hearts and souls. And this is what we lovingly, affectionately refer to as New Thought. Now, we're not the only philosophy that has this understanding, but we are probably the preeminent one. So, back in my own journey, my own spiritual path, at some point I began to feel that there was something more to God than him just being him and a guy. It just didn't feel right. I couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't understand it exactly. But then one day I walked into a New Thought, a religious science church, and they started talking about God as being everywhere, as God being all-powerful, all-present, all-knowledge. And I began to think, this resonates with me. I understand this concept of God. I couldn't see God being somewhere up there where if I was in a bind and I needed help of a loving Father, that I had to 911 him and hope that he was there, hope that I didn't get a busy signal. I was being taught that there is a presence and a power in the universe, and it's available to me. And so this inspired me to spend a little time to study, to learn. One thing led to another. Ultimately, I found myself walking down a spiritual path that in my wildest dreams I had no idea that I would be taking this path and ultimately end up as a minister in a religious science center. But here I am today. And you know, it's been a tremendous path. But the path that I walked because something touched me in my heart. And I want to share some of those things with you. You know, as a minister, I work with people on a regular basis. And this last week I was working with a fella. We've been friends for a long time. And he was telling me that after 30 years, he feels like he's a failure. He feels like he's put all his time into his profession and he's got nothing to show for it. He's a failure in life. And I had to stop him and I had to ask him, I said, you know, are you breathing? And he looked at me like, you know, that was kind of strange. What do you mean, am I breathing? And I told him, if you're breathing, then you are successful at life. Now, you may not be successful in your judgment of where you're at, but where you're at is a place where you can start to create a different life. That there is a power, there is a presence, it is available to you, and you can take it and you can put it to use in your life. But you got to know it first. And the way you know it is by taking the time and opening your consciousness up to a different paradigm than the old one that so many of us were raised with. You know, when we begin to make that shift that God isn't a guy, that God isn't a he somewhere, that God is a power and God is a presence, God is an intelligent energy, some people have said, or the universal creative force, but God is this vastness, and God is ever available to each and every one of us. You know, people oftentimes say, well, you know, I finally found God in my life. You can't find God in your life because God's always been a part of your life. What you do is you find the awareness of that which is already there. It's there, it's been there from the beginning, and not just the beginning of your birth, but the very beginning of the inception of who and what you are, which goes back maybe who knows how long. When you were created in the consciousness of that which we call God, and as you were created, everything that you need to experience in this life was created for you. You know, so many of us go through our lives and we never wake up to that realization. We never wake up to the fact that there is a truth. The truth is so powerful that, you know, the Bible tells us, if you know the truth will set you free. And no truer statement has probably ever been written. To know the truth that you are created in the likeness, in the image of the divine, that it is there available to you, that you have the power within you to co-create with that creative force. But you've got to open up to it, and you've got to understand that you begin to be the responsible individual for the life that you live. Which takes us back to this understanding, or this concept of people living in fear, people living in a economy that is depressed, people that live in an environment of poverty, people that live in limitation, people that live in disease. You know, those are things that are effects, but they're not the truth. They're effects because that's what we've bought into. We've bought into it with our belief system. Society has told us that we are subject to whatever's going on with the economy. We are subject to whatever disease happens to be passing through the neighborhood. We are subject to limitation. We are subject to a lack of things in the world, and therefore that we as individuals can never fully achieve. And that's just not true. You know, you can, but you've got to know it. You've got to open yourself up to that. And that's a freeing, liberating thought in consciousness. And so when I first began to hear this, and I looked around and I saw that people were suffering. People were in pain. People like this individual who I was talking to this last week, who's experiencing this feeling of just total loss within his life. And it's a shame. You shouldn't experience that. You should never experience that in your life. We do because we just don't know what our true reality is. We don't know the total truth of who we are. We're asleep to the fact that there is an absolute power that is readily available to us. And so I got excited, and I began to want to take this message out and share it with people, and I've been doing that, and that was the genesis for putting this show together. And as I've put this show together, we've been able to highlight various individuals, various sinners, and my goal here is to bring this idea, bring this consciousness to each and every one of you, because as each and every one of you begin to open up in consciousness to the idea that there is a presence and there is a power that is available to you, and that through a process of self-realization, realizing the truth of who you are, that you can begin to create a life for yourself that says, I don't have to be a victim to what other people are doing in the world. I don't have to accept what the news is telling me in the evening that is going on in the world. There are people right now in this economy, in the economy in the 60s when Raymond Hollowell wrote what he wrote, in the 30s when Ernest Holmes wrote what he wrote. There are people during those times that were not only surviving, they were thriving, they were successful, and they were successfully creating their lives. And I want to take a moment and talk about success with you, because so often we make the mistake of associating success with just money. And there's nothing wrong with money. In order to live an abundant life, money is an important part of it. It's important that we understand that we not take money and make it the God in our life, but it's not the wholeness of prosperity and success. And there's many different definitions that I've seen people throw around in prosperity. One of my favorite is from Catherine Ponder, and she wrote, "You are prosperous to the degree that you are experiencing peace, health, and plenty in your world." And I think that's a great definition of prosperity. For me, the definition that I like to use is that you are well in all aspects of your life. You are well in your relationships. You are well in your emotional health. You are well in your financial world. You're well in your ability to live a full, self-expressive life. You know, this idea that you can do and be and have is not something that we need to shun away from. It's not something that we need to turn our backs on. It's something that we need to embrace, and I'm going to talk about that when we come back. We're getting ready to go to a commercial right now, so I look forward to seeing you when we come back.
Hi, I'm Greg Rude, a local real estate agent. working with London Properties. You might be thinking about buying or selling a property right now, or maybe you just have a question about real estate. I'd love to help you with that. Give me a call at 352-7716, and I can answer any questions that you might have. Maybe you've got a property that's upside down. Maybe you're interested in buying a bank foreclosure and have a question about that. Or maybe you just like someone to show you some houses that you're interested in or have a question about a particular property. Once again, give me a call. My name's Greg, 352-7716, and I'd love to help you. Thanks.
This just in. Tower District houses are selling for as little as $300 per month. If you have a job and decent credit, you can own your own home. If you can come up with a down payment, you can own a home a lot cheaper than you can rent, and your payment will never go up. Also, you could deduct most of your house payment from your income taxes. If you'd like to lock in your monthly house payment at $300 to $500 per month for the next 30 years, call Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758. Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758.
Hi, I'm Jason Gobelli, and I'd like you to take just a minute and ask yourself a couple of questions. Are your needs being met in the real estate business? Are you getting all the latest technology that you need to be productive in this market? Are you getting the benefits that you deserve? Do you have enough leads? Are you truly making enough money for all that hard work and time you've been putting in? If not, you might want to give me a call and we can set up a confidential interview. At Connect Realty, we're one of the fastest growing companies around. There's tons of tools and benefits for agents, like freerealtor.com showcase listings, free unlimited virtual tours, free websites with nationwide IDX. We have free virtual back office, free compliance coordinator so that you can be paid right away. There's health insurance, life insurance, and the best part is the commissions start from 80% and go to 95%. And we have one of the best retirement plans in the whole industry. Now, I cannot possibly go over everything in this short minute. Go to the website, careers@connectrealty.com, or feel free to call us at the toll-free number, or you can even call my personal line, 559-307-0550. I look forward to talking to you. Thanks.
This segment is brought to you by Corrine Hatfield of Platinum Mortgage. If you are thinking of purchasing a new home or refinancing an existing home, call Corrine Hatfield at 917-7111.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back to our second segment today. This is New Thought Talk, and I am the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful downtown Madera. And I want to talk to you a little bit about our center. We're located right there on D Street, 218 South D Street, which is across the street from the post office. And this is for the people that are local to the area here. I want to invite you to come out and join us on our Sunday celebrations. We have an early celebration at 9 o'clock, and we've got a later celebration at 10:30. And you're always welcome to come out and experience a New Thought spiritual celebration. And I smile when I say that because, you know, we do celebrate. We celebrate our oneness with the divine. We celebrate our oneness with all that is, and that can get that can be pretty good. And as one of my congregants reminded me, she said, you know, Rev Steve, when you talk about what we do on your show, she said, you need to remind people that we also have a lot of fun, and we do. We have good music, good people. There's a lot of love shared there. Our center has been in Madera since about 1994. The Reverend James and Joanna Fox started it, and I was fortunate enough to come along just about the time that they were retiring. I had them on the show a while back, and I look forward to having them back again. They're really wonderful people, and they've helped me to create a great foundation for our center out there in Madera. And you know, we're a growing center. People are hearing this message. There are people today. There are people today that are walking around and they have these kind of questions. They don't know exactly the words to put them into, but they know that something just isn't right in their world. And they're looking for answers, and surprise, surprise, when they come through the door, or actually it really isn't a surprise, because I do believe that God, that Spirit, the creative force of the universe, directs and guides each and every one of us. And I believe these people are guided into our center, and we're there to help them on their spiritual journey. And so when you come out to our center, you'll find a loving, welcoming environment, and usually I'll be there. Occasionally I speak at some other centers, but if I'm not there, the Reverend Joanna or Reverend Jim Fox is there, and they're wonderful people. So, having promoted the center a little bit, I want to tell you that you can find us on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, which is under Steve Walling, and then we have a Facebook page for the center, which is Madera Spiritual Awareness Center. Look us up. You have questions, you can shoot me a question on Facebook. You can check out what's going on at the center at our Facebook account. Facebook's it's one of those things that is drawing more people closer and closer together. Our New Thought community throughout the world is able to make contact. I have so many friends on Facebook that are ministers in various New Thought centers around the country and other places of the world, and it's really exciting, because this is a growing, practicing philosophy. I was sharing this understanding with a friend of mine last night. We were talking, and he was telling me that, he believes that right now the world is looking for the answers that we can bring to the table. And I'm so on board with this. There's just the old paradigm of a vengeful God, of a wrathful God, of a judgmental God. People are going, that just doesn't make sense. How is it that a God that created the universe, a God that we say is a God of love, would hold somebody in eternity in judgment? It just doesn't make sense. And so, as people begin to see that, God has a history. I want you to think about this for a minute. There was a time when God was in the fire, or in the lightning, or in the mountains. And then God became an animal or a construct, or then God took on human forms, and there was multi-levels of God, and then there was the supreme God, and then there was Jehovah, the God of the Israelites, the Hebrews, and God has evolved as our understanding of God has evolved. And in today's times, the God of the Old Testament, the God that is petulant, the God that is wrathful, isn't a God that speaks to people. A God that speaks to people is a God that is complete, a God that is everywhere. And if God is everywhere, doesn't leave room for other places where God is not. Doesn't leave room for a place where, as I make my journey from this life to my next environment, my next transition, that there's some place where God is not. And so we have this understanding, and we share this with people. It touches my heart to see this, to see people when they begin to understand that life is more than living for some future reward. That life is to be lived right now. We live your life today at the very, very highest level that you can live. Hold that thought in consciousness. Hold that thought in your heart, and your life experience is going to begin to expand on so many different levels. There's so many people now that are taking new thought ideas, and they're bringing them to other religions, and that's wonderful. I don't believe that you have to give up your personal beliefs per se to embrace what we teach, and that's just take the principles, put them into practice in your life. When Ernest Holmes was beginning to formulate religious science, Charles and Mildred Fillmore were putting together the Unity organization. I want to read you some quotes from Charles Fillmore. And he says, All causes are essentially mental, and whosoever comes into daily contact with a high order of thinking must take on some of it. In other words, at the level that we think and the level that we open our consciousness up to, we will expand and experience a greater level in our day-to-day lives. He says there are opportunities everywhere, just as there always have been. And he didn't say that there are opportunities that are only there in limited times. Opportunities have always been there, and they always are there. But you have to open yourself up to that level of consciousness. Words are also seeds, and when dropped into the invisible spiritual substance, they grow and bring forth after their kind. Thoughts are things, my friends. If you aren't aware of it, it's time that you need to be aware of it, because as you think you are, and you want to change your life, then you need to change your thinking. And sometimes that can be a little more challenging for some of us than what we first expect. You know, when I first understood that my thoughts created my life, the first thing I wanted to do was say, okay, I got to get rid of all those thoughts that were limiting and all those things that have held me back. But you know what? Those are part of a makeup that sit at a different level, a deeper level of consciousness. And so when we first start down our journey, it's easy to go, okay, I'm going to be a positive thinker, and I'm going to have these thoughts, and I'm just going to change my life, change my thinking, and it's all fine and wonderful. And that lasts for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and then pretty soon we fall back into our old habit pattern. Why is it that we fall back into our old habit pattern? We fall back into our old habit pattern because we start off with the wrong premise to begin with. And the premise is that I can do it myself. I am singly separate by myself. And we got to be careful when we use this I am phrase, because I am is that magical, mystical, spiritual phrase that really, truly connects us with the divine creative force of the universe that we call God. So I am one with God. And when I begin to understand that there is this truth, that God is all that there is, and I begin to expand my level of that understanding, that's where the power for me to create change and the power for you to create change in your life begins to take place. It's not in the I can do it myself. It's I can do it with my co-creative force. I can do it with the divine creative force of the universe. I can do it with God. And God is all that is. And so, when we begin to understand that, and this is where having this paradigm shift, that God is not a person, that God is not something out there, that God is everywhere. When I can begin to realize that God is right here wherever I am, there's nowhere where God is not. Okay, then all of a sudden, I don't have to 911. I don't have to beg, borrow, or live in fear, because I've got the infinite creative power of the universe, and it's right here. And if I sound a little repetitive today on this idea, I mean to, because I want you to get, if you take nothing away from today, I want you to take with you the idea that wherever you are, God is, that you are never alone. How wonderful is that idea when you can wake up in the morning and know that no matter what you face during the day, that God is, and God is right there with you. And you always have that, because you can't separate yourself from it. So when life looks a little tough, when life begins to throw things at you, you have a resource, you have a source, and your source is the all-powerful, the infinite, the all-knowing, the all-complete, the all-divine creative force of the universe. We call it God. We call it Spirit. We call it Goddess. It doesn't make any difference what you call it. And on that note, we're going to go away to a commercial, and I'll see you when we come back.
Mike Briggs Properties has a very special historic property for sale that can be used as a home or as a business. This classic California craftsman historical home is located in the Tower District, Fresno Heights area. The interior ambiance displays a heyday of craftsman aesthetics, substance, strength, symmetry, and casual grace. Elegantly appointed mahogany and oak structural elements integrate form and function in a harmonious flow from room to room in this two-story, 4,500-foot home. The property also includes a nearly 800-foot two-bedroom apartment above the garage. This property is well suited for a professional office type of business or for a large family or combined living and workspace. The lot included with this property is park-sized with plenty of room for expansion or as a parking lot big enough to support a commercial business. For more information on this property, call Mike Briggs Properties at 486-6758. Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758.
Welcome to Johnny's Porch.
About that.
We have been
I
doing this
thought
for
about
a
that.
year. My memory of the porch is that it's very much where women ruled. It was almost a throne.
Going like this.
Oh, I'm circular. See, Southern folks are circular. What you said, preach. You want me to preach? Love sharing those things and those things that'll make you stronger and better and go for. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Turn me around. Hey, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody. Okay, no more drama. To myself, I said self. Myself said yeah.
That was a good one.
That was good, girl. I'm good. I'm helping you become the best reflection of yourself. And what was that? The one God intended all along. We're going to get there together, I promise you. Thank God for the Pope. Amen.
You can advertise your business, your product, or your event on Central Valley Talk, the Valley's only internet television station. Several of our programs are also picked up on Dish and cable networks. For the best advertising dollar, call Central Valley Talk at 579-1360. This segment is brought to you by Blimpies in the Tower District. For all of your lunch and dinner needs, go to Blimpies in the Tower District.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back to our third segment of New Thought Talk today. I am the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful downtown Madera. And I'm enjoying myself today, sharing some things about myself and sharing some new thought concepts with each and every one of you, and that's a wonderful thing. I love the backgrounds that I have here on the show. It's really nice that, I have a co-partner, this is my wife, and she puts these together so that each week we can experience many different venues without really traveling anywhere. And that's a good thing. So anyhow, I was talking about New Thought and the concept of God, and oh boy, there's just so much to share. But we understand that God is neither a person, place, nor a thing. That God is in essence a power and energy and intelligence that can be found everywhere, and that God is everywhere available to each and every one of us. And as I go through this today, we talked about Facebook, and if you'll look, I believe at the bottom of the banner, we've had up our email account. I get questions from people all over the place about various concepts that we've talked about on the show. Please feel free to email me, contact me through Facebook. Love to share this with you, love to share thoughts. If you have some suggestions or requests for something that you'd like to see me cover during the show, be happy to do it. It is a joy of my life to share this with each and every one of you. And so, moving along, I want to talk about this idea of God being neither a person, place, nor thing, but in essence, something that's found everywhere. And the thing is, and the reason why I want to come back to this once again, is when we look at this concept of God, we look at God through our own individual beliefs, our own individual understanding. And so to open ourselves up to something different means that we have to go right to the very heart of who and what we are, because our reality, our world that we see, what we experience is so tied into our beliefs that oftentimes we don't recognize that that is the filter that our world understanding is filtered through. And so, we have to start with this understanding that God is everywhere. And we are. If God is everywhere, we are some part of that God experience, that God allness. We often say that we are a spiritual being having a physical expression of life. And I like having that understanding. It makes things a little clearer for me, and maybe it'll make it a little clearer for you. So, I've got a couple things I want to share with you here. This understanding of God from Ernest Holmes, and so I'm going to read this to you. It says, available to all. Persons familiar with biblical history hardly need a lesson about faith, for the 11th chapter of Hebrews is full of instances proving its sustaining power. Faith, God, oneness. We have a power and a presence available to us, but we have to have faith in it. We have to believe in it. And if our belief system is a belief system, an understanding that God is somewhere out there, then our faith is limiting. Our beliefs are limiting, and our life experience is limiting. When we open ourselves up to the consciousness that God is everywhere, we have faith in that. We have belief in that. Then our life experience begins to change. In New Thought, one of the things that we talk about is that this is a truth teaching. And when we're talking about truth, this is the truth, that there is nothing but God. That is a truth with a capital T. And our life experience is at the level of our ability to open our consciousness understanding up to that understanding of that level of truth. If we have a little bit of understanding, we have a little bit of experience. If we have none, then we have no experience of it. And you see people that live their lives with little or no experience or understanding of this truth principle, and we often call them victims. And they see themselves as victims. But in truth, there is no victim. There's just people that live in a consciousness of separation from what it is that we call truth. What is God? What is there for us? You don't have to experience that which you don't want to experience, but you got to know it first. You don't have to be subject to, but you got to know it first. So you visit the centers of the individuals that I've had on here, the various ministers. You come out to my center in Madera. You come see us on Sunday. You begin to learn from the teachings of Ernest Holmes and the Fillmores and the Emma Curtis Hopkins and many other people that have spent time teaching this philosophy and awakening the world to a better way of life. It's what brought me to it. Life doesn't have to be a world full of war. Life doesn't have to be a world full of poverty. Life doesn't have to be a world full of lack and limitation. But we're not going to change the world by going to war more. We're not going to change the world by broadcasting lack and limitation and poverty through the news. We're going to change the world by each and every one of us coming to a point of self-realization. When I begin to realize that I am a creative force in my life, that I can create a life of abundance for myself, and I take that consciousness and I share that consciousness with individuals, I share it with people, and I begin to live it, there is a universal principle that responds. And as it responds, I begin to see more abundance, more prosperity, more good, more plenty in in my life experience, and people that are around me begin to experience that also, and they begin to see and understand that. And that's what we teach, and that's what you can experience in your life. There is a God that is available to you. There is a presence that is available to you, and it's never apart from you. You can take this and you can put it to use, and you can do it right now. No matter where you're at in your life today, no matter what you're doing, no matter how hard, how bad, how severe, how impoverished life may seem, right now is the time, the day, the moment, the now that you can take and begin to create a different life for yourself. And in so doing, you create a different world. You create a world of peace. You create a world of harmony. You create a world of abundance. You create a world of good. And the power is within you. The God presence is within you. The Christ consciousness is within you, and it is nowhere else. And that is what it's all about. That's what we teach. And when people get that, they put it to use in their lives. You watch lives change. I have seen time after time people that have had life-threatening so-called diseases or financial situations in their life where they're just overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. And somehow, some way, the God presence provides them with an avenue, a way to this particular teaching, to this philosophy. They begin to study. They begin to put these principles into practice in their lives. And all of a sudden, those terrible things that they had imagined melt away. And in their place is a presence, a power, an energy, a God that is there for them, as part of them, working and creating in their lives by not providing, by coming from some outside source, but by working through them. When you open yourselves up, you allow that God presence within you to work through you to create all the good that you ever need, want, or desire. Because what you do need, want, and desire is that it's that inspiration that God put in you in the first place. You see, God created you not to subsist. God created you to thrive, not only to survive, but to excel, to experience this life at such a level, such an incredible level. But you got to know it. And if you don't know it, how can you experience it? And so we take the time, we put together a program like this. There are New Thought ministers, religious science, unity, divine science, divine unity, so many other different New Thought philosophies that can teach you how to learn these principles, how to put these principles into practice in your life. And then you begin to create. And as you create, my friends, as you begin to experience a different life, my friends, you are going to change the world. You're going to be the peace that you want to see in the world. You're going to create the peace you want to see in the world. You're going to be the abundance and be the harmony and be the love. I believe that there is a world available to mankind today that can take and eliminate the famine that's in the world, that can eliminate those things that we call evil in the world. But we have a responsibility. We have a duty to learn those things, to learn how to take this life that God has given us and to put it into practice, to create a prosperity, to create an abundance, and to take that and to share it with people. You see, many theologies, many religions, they're a cerebral thing, they're a mental thing. You know, you hold it in consciousness, you study, and that's what you do. This is a practicing philosophy. You take this philosophy each and every day and you put it to use, you put it to practice in your life. And you know what? Some days you're going to fail. But you're not a failure. You just had a bad day. You pick it up tomorrow and you move on. Like my friend that I talked to you about in the beginning of the program today. He is starting today to create a new life for himself. My wife shared with me a story of a young man that has contacted her, and it appears that he's experiencing some relationship problems in his life, and he's asked for help. Something other than drugs or alcohol or ending his life. He's looking, he's searching. It's for people that have these kind of questions that we have answers. You're wondering where your life is. You're wondering what your life's purpose is. there are answers that are available to you. There are answers available to you in each and every New Thought center throughout this country and throughout the world. This is a philosophy that is a growing philosophy. This is an empowering philosophy. As you begin to self-realize, you begin to self-actualize. As you self-actualize, you change, like I said, you change the world. And it all starts with you, and it all starts in a point in time that we call now. And now is the time. Now is the time for you to make the choice. Now is the time for you to make the decision. Now is the time to free yourself from the bondage of old beliefs. Now is the time to not only to go, but to grow in a spiritual consciousness. You can't grow in spirituality because you are a spiritual being having a physical expression in life. You are that. It's there. You've just got to open yourself up to it. You've got to realize it, and you can realize it. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's time to go to a commercial.
America's Sub Shop has arrived in the Tower District. Blimpie's is the best place to get delicious sandwiches, salads, baked goods, and smoothies at reasonable prices. You won't believe the great value of Blimpie's $5 combo deals. The fresh baked bread and big bowl taste will bring you in, and the friendly service and great prices will keep you coming back. A Blimpie sandwich is great on your lunch break or as a healthy meal for the whole family. Try Blimpie's today, located directly across from the Tower Theater. We know you'll love it.
Welcome to Voice of the Valley. I am your host, Kathy Wilcox. And two of Kathy's favorite things are going to be featured on the show today. Number one is money. Number two,
Fine moves. You can do it.
alcohol! My first guest.
Back and forth ever so gently.
I have to get up. I have to show you this dress because I think it was made for me.
I wanna die.
Doesn't this just scream Maryland? I'm dressed for my Christmas parade outing, as you can see. Reindeer.
Number one selling wine from Argentina.
Argentina.
Kathy Wilcox, Voice of the Valley. Wednesdays at 2 on Channel 43.
Hi, Bill Carmichael here, manager of Valley Gold Mine Fresno. I'd like to tell everybody that we've relocated to the Tower District at 1212 North Van Ness Avenue. If you have any broken or unwanted jewelry you'd like to get top dollar for, give us a call at 559-970-8660. Also, we're on the web at www.valleygoldminefresno.com. If you're the type that likes to entertain at home, we have some gold parties that we can tell you about. And also, if you have children in schools and they have trouble raising funds, we have a great fundraiser that works as well. Once again, my number is 559-970-8660. Thank you.
This segment is brought to you by David Parker from the law offices of Parker, Kern, Nard, and Wenzel.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, once again, we are back, and I am the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful downtown Madera. And, you know, here we are. We're in our fourth segment again. Boy, time just goes by. I can't believe it. But anyway, in this segment, I want to read to you from the Science of Mind book written by Ernest Holmes. Oftentimes we refer to it as the textbook. But in the glossary in the back, he's got a definition of lack and limitation, and he has a little discussion about it, and I want to read this to you. It says, lack and limitation. These are synonymous terms that indicate that something is missing in our lives. We believe that we are without health, wealth, friends, or opportunities. Money is an objective representation, a symbol of an eternal substance which forever flows, and which is forever manifesting itself in the visible world. And what he's saying there is money is nothing more than a representation of that. It's important that we experience those things in our lives that are associated with money because it's part of that energy flow. But he goes on to say, we should endeavor to know that there is an intelligence guiding our affairs and that this intelligence is perfect, that the law of this intelligence is immutable. As we withdraw our attention from the limited world of effect and dwell unwaveringly on the limitless good, we shall have destroyed the only reason whereby lack and limitation could manifest in our lives. We enter the absolute in such proportion that we withdraw from the limited. And this is a teaching that goes back to a fellow that we know of as Judge Thomas Trord, and it's something that he taught. And he said, to the extent that we are in the absolute, in consciousness, in mind, and the absolute being the truth, the absolute being the perfection of all, to where we are, to the extent that we are in that in consciousness, we are not in that in the relative, in the world of effects. But to the extent that we're into the world of effects, that we tie ourselves to the world of effects, to that extent we are not in the world of the absolute. So this teaching is a pathway, a guide, a light, if you will, to light our journey to an understanding of the absolute, to incorporating the absolute in our lives. And we do this, and to watch people to take these principles and put them into practice in their lives. We have many classes that we teach out in the Spiritual Awareness Center in Madera, and you can contact us and find out about them. But many centers, matter of fact, all centers have classes that they teach that will help you individually take these principles and put them into practice in your lives. You don't have to wait. Don't wait 1 second. Pick up the phone today, as they say, and make that phone call. Reach out and touch somebody. Now is your time. Right now is your time to experience all the good that God meant for you to have. And God meant for you to have that good. You need to know that. You need to own that. You need to see it in your life. And you won't see it if you sit on your hands. You have in front of you right now, because you're watching this show on a computer, you have available to you several resources, and I talk about these each week. The first one is a link or webpage that is called findacenter.com or findacenter.org, either one of those. If you go to that link, you go there and there is a world map, and you can click on whatever country, whatever part of the world that you're in, and it will take you, it'll break it down to a more local map, and you can break it down locally to find a center that is as near to you as can be found. They list every center in the world is there, and there's centers that participate in this, that help support this, and so you may find a little more information on some centers than others, but every center that they've been able to find, every New Thought center in the world is listed there, so that you can find a place near you, as near to you as you can get, and if it's someplace that you can get to physically, fine. If not, it's someplace that you can contact and make arrangements for self-study or something like that. It is available to you. Also online, there is another website that is called newthoughtlibrary.com. And you'll look at the bottom of the screen there that both of those web pages are listed. At newthoughtlibrary.com, they're constantly adding more New Thought books, and these are books that were written by some of the early founders, and some of them are even a little more current. But the philosophy is there, the teaching is there. I want to encourage you to go to these, utilize these sources for yourself. If you feel a little uncomfortable for one reason or another, you can do it online. And you can find those things, you can find the connection, and if you are experiencing questions in your mind, if you feel a tug, if things in your life don't feel quite right, that's God speaking to you, telling you it's time to wake up to a greater paradigm, to a different understanding of the world. Don't ignore that. Take that consciousness, move on it. Now is your time. It's always right now. And you can take and you can put these practices into practice in your life, and you can change your life. You change your life, you change your family, you change your neighborhood, you change your town, you change wherever you live, and you change the world ultimately. That's a powerful concept. We are each, every one of us, empowered with that. There is a field of pure potentiality, as Deepak Chopra says, that is available to you. An infinite potentiality. You open your mind up to it. We say in New Thought, change your thinking, change your life. And that is so true. You know, when I first came to this understanding, and that's kind of how I started this show out, it amazed me that there was a spiritual path, a journey that we could walk that allowed us to self-realize, self-actualize, empower ourselves, and change the world. I didn't know that there was anything like that out there. And all of a sudden I found it. And for me it became a home. And I want to invite you into my spiritual home, whether you come to the center in Madera or whether you come to a center that's in a town near you. It makes no difference. It is our spiritual home because we experience life as God expressing through us. And there is really just this one, the unity, the all, God. And it just, I can't express enough the feeling that it gives me in my heart to know this, to the empowerment that the changes that it has made in my life, and maybe one of these shows we can talk about that, but the changes I've seen in people's lives, opening up to the God consciousness that's in them, opening up to the Christ consciousness that speaks through them, that is available to them. You know, this fellow Jesus who walked the face of the earth 2,000 plus years ago, his teachings are profound. And one of the things that you will find is in New Thought, one of the things we teach is what Jesus taught. And sometimes you will find there's a lot that's spoken about this individual called Jesus the Christ, but oftentimes not what he taught. We focus on what he taught because his teaching was a powerful teaching. This teaching is a powerful teaching. And so on that note, it's time that we start winding down. And so as I do each and every week, I want to share with you, may the light of God surround you. May the love of God enfold you. May the power of God protect you. And the presence of God watch over you. Because truly, wherever you are, God is, and all is well. Make it a great week, my friends, and I'll be back next week. Take care.